Welcome to today's video, guys. What we have today is Andrew Wilson destroys One Versus for Feminist panel.
What societal duty, which is equal to that, do women have?
Are you married?
Yeah, I'm married. How do you make married with many children?
Is your
How
wife
about
happy?
You married with children?
I'm 23. I'm a boss lady girl.
I mean, do you know how insecure and pathetic you sound?
She couldn't put down the Dunkin' Donuts long enough to make an argument.
You're not a real man. You're actually very feminine.
I don't care what you think a real man is.
You're such a big boy.
Just because of men like you.
Okay. Can you reproduce? Do you even have a uterus to reproduce?
The language.
We can have
I've got to go.
I'm
really late.
This person says, well, you know, the thing is you just want to erase transgender people altogether, Pierce, and then says, I wasn't saying that, Pierce. I wasn't saying that you want to erase trans people, not you specifically, when clearly that's what you were saying. At least get behind the statements that you're making. The TERF starts out by saying, well, I've been here reinforcing women's rights this entire time, right? And then the TERF says, right on top of that, well, but, you know, poker's very misogynistic. She can't wait to dunk on men. Very first thing she does is dunk on men in order to somehow elevate women, right? You're all insane. The truth is that the only reason that this happens to begin with is because women vote for it. They vote for it. They vote blue. They vote left. They vote in the same politicians who get behind all of this stuff. You're the deciding vote, right? And you have empowered women to do that as much as possible for the political process to do that. All of you are responsible for this. Every last one of you.
Really glad that you're so perfect.
We begin with these crazy ideas, right? Under patriarchal rule, under men, this would never have happened, right? If you look at how men vote, they vote against this nonsense. And it's fathers who are on the front lines against it. It's women who are trying to transition the children, not men. Give me a case example of where male fathers are trying to transition their kids. It doesn't exist. It's a female-only phenomenon.
The point is that this is something that benefits men, and it's men that are the ones that are saying they're women. They are all of a sudden the oppressed, and feminists like me are the oppressor, and that they're too weak and pathetic to fight and play against other men. And what do? They come and beat up on women.
It's very simple. If you look at the voting patterns of women in both the UK and the United States, they're usually the deciding vote when it comes to degeneracy. That includes
not to do with anything.
It includes on the trans issue. So here you are, it's the very thing that you push for empowerment of women that is now causing your very problem. You have to now convince women. Men are already there. Men have already said, nope, we don't want this, we never wanted it,
that are claiming
it's garbage.
To be women.
Yeah, apart from the women who are claiming to be men, which now it's almost equalized. Remember that part? Right? This phenomenon, though, is categorically rejected by men and reinforced by women. And TERFs like you did everything that you could possibly do in order to push that. You did everything you could do to push that. And now you get to reap the whirlwind. So I don't care if women in their sports teams are getting their teeth kicked in. I don't care. Reap what you sow. As you sow, so shall you reap. And you get exactly what you deserve.
You seem like a lovely person.
I'm sorry that you have to deal with the consequences of your own actions.
So, Emily, where do you sit? Are you a covert feminist like Tommy? Did you agree with Andrew's assessment?
I'm not a covert feminist. I am very outwardly... You know, the word feminism has been hijacked by, like, the woke left, who uses it as an excuse for psychotic women and liberals to scream on the streets, we want equal rights when we have equal rights. I'm more so an empowered woman who encourages other women to, you know, be independent, work hard, chase your dreams. And that doesn't come at the expense of being feminine. It doesn't come at the expense of, now, as a feminist, you need to eradicate all men. I don't think everything is so black or white. Listening to that debate, they spoke a bit about gender roles, and here's my take on that. If you're going to have gender role expectations for your man, that's a personal choice. Emily Austin has high expectations of her man. He has to be working hard. He should be successful. He should, you know, pay attention to how I feel. Like, there should be certain gender roles. He has to provide for the family, not solely, but he should be providing for his family. These are gender roles. As a woman, I learned how to cook. I know how to clean. My grandmother always tells me, my mother tells me, Emily, you're going to be a good wife. You're going to be loyal. You're going to be supportive. You're going to act like a. Now, there's many women who don't want to play that into the gender roles, which is fine. But then don't expect your man to go out and become masculine. I think it's equal. Like, set the expectation and then date people who meet your expectation. But in terms of covert feminism, is first of all, it's such a silly term. Either you support women or you don't. And I'm not talking about the trans argument right now.
Not only is it not a silly term, it is true that most of the political pundit women on the right are covert feminists. And I'll just ask you the same exact question I asked Tommy.
Because the word feminism got hijacked.
Let me finish the question. Let me finish the question. No, I'm talking about all the way back to first wave feminism. Okay, you are feminists, and I'll explain by asking you the same question. If it is men's duty in society to procure, refine, protect resources, which then women and children are the primary beneficiaries of, which they are. What societal duty, which is equal to that, do women have? What is it?
Women, we're going to have children. Men will never understand the burden of carrying a child.
So you have a duty to reproduce?
I expect women to be able to cook and clean.
Wait, so you have women have a duty to reproduce?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So that's the one duty that's on par. Great. So that's one duty that's on par with that. I totally agree. Are they? Or is it the case that in every single nation in the West, we are under reproductive rates in every single one of them? In every single nation in the West, we are lower than where we need to be for reproduction. So it seems that men are fulfilling their social duty and women are not. And the problem with the right is that the right doesn't ever address this, and right-wing females never address this. Instead, they say it's equal. Work and motherhood are equal. They're not equal. Not only are they not equal, but let me give you another example here. As you dive into this, try to understand that what you do is you actually hamstring women. By telling women they should go and be girl boss babes and go to college starting in their 20s, they actually destroyed their prime reproductive years. They destroy them by having families later. It's the primary cause.
Okay, that's silly. I'm 23.
Hang on, listen.
It's the primary cause for the reproductive. I'm 23.
Hang on, listen. It's the primary cause. It's the primary cause of the reproduction crisis in the West, is that with women defer families till they're in their 30s. Why do you think the average age of marriage is 32 in the United States? I think it just got raised to 33. Yes, you're going to have way less kids. Okay, part of girl bossing is when you say career women are right on par with mothers. They're not, and society should be glorifying one, not socially shaming the other, but you shouldn't give them the same elevation you give to mothers and matrons of families. That is pure covert feminism.
Okay, I'm going to answer you with the following. I don't believe in the glorification, and especially I see it amongst Gen Zers, of not having children. I actually think it's disgraceful, and I don't think it's a flex at all to brag about not wanting to repopulate. It just shows me that you're so insecure that you're going to be a bad parent that you're not doing it. On the other hand, I'll ask you a question in return. Would you prefer a child growing up in a damaged family with a mother who clearly wasn't ready to raise a child and raise potentially what could be a deranged child who grows up to be a serial killer or a murderer, or how about this, just a really bad person, rather than wait a few more years until she's ready to have her kid and then raise a mensch? What do you prefer?
Well, so here's what we can see when we break this down. What we see when we break this down is the abuse happens in the public school, where you're 100 times more likely to be essayed than you are if you're in a Catholic church. We see that if it is the case that you're a single mother, you are a single mother, especially by choice, that is usually the selection of stepfather that leads to the abuse of the children. We also can see via the stats that you're completely just insane here. You are actually, if you stay inside of a family where mom and dad don't even like each other, your outcomes are still better than if you, the girl boss, goes, I just don't feel fulfilled. I don't feel fulfilled, and so I need to go and date the neighbor down the road or whatever, right? The truth is that regardless of your fulfillment, children are the duty. The next generation is the duty, and women have a duty to keep the family intact as well. They're responsible for most of the divorces. They file for the most amount of divorces, not because of abuse, but because of irreconcilable differences. And when asked, I don't feel fulfilled. And it's like, that's not how we run a society. It's literally a death sentence for our whole society. Look at what's going on in the UK. It's a death sentence for them.
I want to get Julie to respond to Andrew.
Oh, I zoned out and I thought I'd woken up in the 1950s. In some TARDIS. You can't take him seriously. It's ridiculous.
Oh, you mean in the 1950s? You mean in the 1950s when we had intact families where 95% of women were getting married as virgins, where families weren't being broken up, where crime was extremely low, where you only needed one income to support an entire household, where mental illness was at an all-time low, like that 1950s? Gotcha, bitch! I'm sorry that I make a reference to a time. Yeah,
So are you married? Are you married?
Yeah, I'm married. How do you make married with many children?
Is your
How
wife
about
happy?
You married with children? Oh, she's ecstatic.
No, I'm 23.
She's
I'm
gonna
a
bring
boss
me-
lady girl, which seems to
Yeah.
be driving you crazy.
Yeah.
Working, making
well,
money,
I'm just pointing
waiting
out
for the right guy to
the
come
only
along.
thing you have no arguments. You just try to assault me personally. You can try, but the truth is that I've reproduced. I am
How
married.
did I assault
do
you?
have
I
the
asked you
life.
if you're married.
No, you didn't. You were making a passive-aggressive
I mean,
feminist
to be
Wait,
fair,
how
to
did
be
I
fair to
assault
Andrew,
you?
about how my
You
wife
sound
must be
liberal.
miserable.
Andrew,
Your wife must be miserable.
to be fair, Andrew is
She might
practicing
be.
what he preaches.
I think the beauty about free will is you make a choice who you want to spend your life with. Like, I know many men are okay with, a woman who works, and I know many men are not. And that's the great part, is you choose who you want to partner with. So if you want a woman to be home and have 5, 6, 7, 8 children, which is a beautiful choice to make in life, then go for it. If you want a woman who can do both, work and have children when she's ready, 2 or 3 children, then go for that type of woman. If you want a woman who's never home and going to be, on the road all the time, and trust me, there are many beta men who would love that, then go for that. Like, nobody is forcing you to be with a woman that doesn't cater to your needs. The same way no one's forcing any women to be with a guy like Andrew Tate that's going to beat you and make you miserable. We have choices, and we need to make calculated, wise choices as to what personally is best for you.
The Andrew Tate fallacy,
Julie,
instantly moving over to Andrew Tate is evil and a representation of men who believe in a patriarchal system. Here's the truth. The truth of the matter is that we should be doing for society what is socially good for society. If we can't reproduce our society, that's a really bad social ill for society. When you have propaganda that is telling women to go get useless degrees
is for me
in
and
psychology
my husband, it's
and
not for
sociology.
society.
Yeah, that's great. Let me
It's
finish.
actually
I mean,
quite,
Andrew,
it's quite sad.
hang on. Just Andrew, quickly. Is Megyn Kelly a covert feminist, then? Are your
Not
criteria?
covert, overt. She's an overt feminist. Covert's out for Megyn Kelly. Megyn Kelly came out and said women should be prioritizing career over family. That's what Matt Walsh's issue was with her, and he's absolutely right. The guy struck it out of the ballpark. Socially, in society, we should be moving women into a familial role. It's not to say that women can't work. Nobody's saying women can't work. We're just saying that if you're going to glorify things in society, it should be the mother in the intact home and the wife and the caretaker at home, not the girl boss. That's insane. And it's a societal death sentence. Walsh knows it. Everybody knows this at this point. If you can't reproduce your own nation, you don't have a nation.
Do you know how...
Okay, Julie, you wanted to jump in there.
I mean, do you know how insecure and pathetic you sound? You can't take you seriously.
Eat another donut,
I get
lady.
That I'll just finish. I get that you reckon that you're some big shock jock, and I know that you're desperately trying to be relevant, but you sound so insecure and so pathetic. You are
Do you have
irrelevant.
an
sounds very
argument?
insecure.
Can you put the Duncan down for a second and give me an argument? Do you have an argument? Or is it just
Sorry, I
Andrew
haven't heard
bad?
one from you.
Yes,
I don't...
I've given you multiple arguments for the social fabric of all of society and how we can improve it, what we need to be doing, what we need to be moving towards. I gave you all the stats. I gave you argument after argument. Can you give me a single argument?
All the stats. You are the oracle. You know all about the universe and what's going to progress humankind. You're just a shock
it's
jock,
not
mate.
psychic ability.
You're just pathetic. Nobody's going to listen
arguments.
to you. You're
When
an
are you
aggressive,
going to have an
insecure
argument?
man.
I'm going to tell you what's going to
We're not
happen. This is
taking you
going to go
seriously.
Well, this is going to go viral, and a lot of people are going to take me seriously, and all they're going to remember is that I told you that you couldn't put down the Dunkin' Donuts long enough to make an argument. Now, can you make one or not?
Oh, you know, This is schoolboy
By the way,
tactic.
a real
It's
man
schoolboy.
doesn't speak down to a woman the way
I don't
you
care
do.
what you think
You're
a
not
real
a real
man
man.
is.
You're actually
I
very
don't care
feminine
what
if
you
you
think
ask
a real
me.
man
You're
is.
a
Don't
very
care.
feminine man.
Yeah, nobody cares what you think real men are.
You're
You sound
pathetic,
super feminine.
mate.
Yeah.
And how
Nobody cares what you think a real man
think
is.
that you're such
I'm
a
sure your wife's
big
very happy
boy
at home.
by slating, bringing in
You're so mad.
personal
So
personal
mad.
insults about women's
You start. Hey,
I'm actually
appearance.
very
I'm
happy
sorry.
right
I'm
now.
sorry. You guys
I
think that you're
feel
going to
for
show
you
people.
when
We
you
can't
go
say
out
anything back.
into the big wide world from behind your macho
Well, one day when I go out in the
podcast
big
studio
wide
there.
world, I hope people will take me as seriously as they do women who make zero
Wait,
arguments
why are you
on
on
a show
Piers
like this.
Morgan? Shouldn't you go be working right
Why
now
are
and making
you?
money for your
Why-
family to
I
support?
am
How do you have
working,
time to
making
I'm
a ton of
working. I
money.
don't
What
have
are you
kids.
talking about?
I don't have a husband.
You're
I'm
saying
23
that you
years
can't
old.
make
I'm not
money-
married with kids
you-
yet, but
you
it
can't
seems like
make
you should
money
go be working
podcasting?
right now to fulfill your gender role as a big,
I
strong
am
man.
working right now.
Oh, we'll get to work.
Well, let
That's
me
what
ask-
I
let
do
me
for
ask,
a living. I
You're
don't know
not
what
being
you're
paid to
talking
be
about.
here.
Yes, lady. I'm going to get paid a lot of money ultimately to be here. You have no idea what you're talking about.
I actually believe women are a lot messier than men, just in terms of our makeup, our clothing, the abundance of clothing that we have. I think we definitely purchase more accessories than men. And I think we also, like I said, there are gender roles I believe in should be responsible for most of the cleaning. Then on the other hand, if you're marrying a slob, A, you should know who you're getting into a household with. But B, if you're in a happy marriage and you have a sense of communication, why not just sit your partner down and be like, hey, I don't mind cleaning up after you, but when you throw your filthy socks on the bathroom sink or you leave your wet towel and we have mold, I'd appreciate if you could not do this. But I don't think it gets to an extent where like divorce is justifiable unless your husband is like a hoarding pig that's unbearable to live with. I think she's being a little bit dramatic here. And we all can acknowledge women are a bit messier than men, and it should be just like looking after one another. It's not a big deal to clean up after your partner, and that could go both ways. Not everything is so black or white.
Andrew?
Well, first of all, stay-at-home moms are mostly nowadays parking their kids in public school for most of the day. Oftentimes, the kids are taking buses from the city to the school and buses home. They're not even driving them. Okay, not even driving them. And they have fully furnished lunch, even breakfast at most of these public schools, right? They don't even have to send them with a lunch anymore. They have all day to do household chores while men are working. Right? No, women do not do a disproportionate amount of work in comparison to men. That's absurd. No labor statistic supports that. And even if we were to take household chores and put it on the table against a man's work, doesn't even come close, even with children, especially because you're parking them most of the time in a public school for most of the day. This lady who's making this TikTok, totally insane, completely disconnected from reality, has no idea how this actually works.
She's not
Okay,
totally
Julie,
insane.
your response to
You're
that.
going to make a choice to marry a girl who's going to cook and clean and do everything. And me as a woman, I'm going to make a choice to hire a housekeeper one day so that I don't have to cook and clean because that's my choice.
Julie, you've been talking about feminism for decades. We're now in a place, a strange place, I think, where women have more freedom to do all the things that maybe previous generations of women did not have freedom to do. And many, including me, actually, think that's a very good step forward. The only downside to this is that birth rates around the world are beginning to plummet to dangerously low levels. And Elon Musk keeps warning that if they carry on like this, it's going to be a very, very serious problem for the future of the planet. So let me just ask you, Julie, when you look at the progress that feminism has made, you can see so many ways that women's rights have been promoted in a better way. But are you concerned about the dropping birth rates and the fact that women no longer, because so many more are going out to work and everything else and prioritizing work perhaps over family, that birth rates ultimately are obviously going to reduce and that ultimately that could be a very self-defeating thing for the planet?
We need to pay attention to the fact that many women, when they have children, have no support, no childcare, feckless fathers who leave if they're there in the first place, where there is very little maternity leave, hardly any financial security, particularly if that woman is in an abusive relationship and can't rely on that second wage coming into the home. So have a look at what will make it more attractive and feasible for women to have babies. And also have a look at the women who are choosing not to have babies because they don't want to be hitched to and trapped with a man who, quite frankly, isn't the love of her life because of his behaviour and because of his shortcomings. That's what we need to be doing.
Yeah.
Piers, I just want to bring up a point that, and personally, I don't know the stats. I'd be very curious into looking into it, but I think it would be remiss to not mention the fact that many, many women, personally I know a bunch, but I want to see the stats on it, are trying to have kids that are doing rounds of IVF, spending all of their money that they've saved up trying to have a kid, are infertile, are having miscarriages, never got their period. I think we also have a really serious health crisis going on, at least in the United States. I can't speak about the UK, that Bobby Kennedy is very well aware of, about hormones and the foods that are making it a lot harder for women to have children, because I know many, many women who would love to have a big, beautiful family, but can't even conceive their first child. So I don't know if it's necessarily everyone making a decision to not have kids, rather a health problem. And I'd advise everyone to look into that too.
It's totally absurd. So first of all, the reason they need IVF and things like this because they defer families till they're in their 30s, right? It's not healthy for women to start having babies in their 30s.
No,
not a great idea.
not
Yes.
true.
Yeah. Not only is it true,
I have
but
a 24-year-old friend who can't
I
get
can
pregnant.
statistically prove it. The exception doesn't make the rule. The truth of the matter is, you can even look at infant mortality rates, and in the United States, we have some of the highest in the world, and that is correlated directly to the fact that women are aged out of their 20s when they're having children. You can even see this in other nations as well. Back over to the TERF's argument, she says, well, wait a second, we should really be deferring to women and incentivizing women for more stuff that women want. We do this all the time. We defer to everything that is that they want. By the way, you have free tuition. You do get all sorts of free health care. And by the way, it's the poor people who have the most amount of children, not the middle class or the rich who do family planning. So this idea that you're just going to give the idea that you're just going to give women money and that's going, or some type of support in this way, and that's going to be what moves them towards children, is not true. Usually it's things like religion, religiosity, your key component to traditionalism, your idea of community has nothing to do with family leave. It has nothing to do with that. Never has the birth rate's been dropping like this, like a rock, especially since the 1900s, right? But even in the 1800s. But now, since birth control especially, and women's liberation, the sexual revolution, it has dropped so drastically, we can't even reproduce the population. These aren't answers. You're not answering any problems. None.
It's just because of men like you.
Okay.
Yeah, it's because of men like me. I know. It's men like me. The ones who actually reproduce. It's because of men like me who actually reproduce. I get it. That makes sense.
So what do you suggest? Should women just start like walking around
Can you
getting knocked
reproduce?
up?
Do you even
so
have a
confused.
uterus to reproduce? Do you even have a uterus to reproduce? But anyway, what were you saying? I'm sorry.
No, I just don't understand. What do you think is the solution? Women should just like kind of settle in their young 20s and just start popping out babies, even if they haven't necessarily met someone that's compatible for them yet, or
I
vice
thought you were
versa.
in an anti-natalist language, popping out babies. Oh, they're slave to the stove, popping out babies. No, I think that from a societal view,
I don't do the language.
We can have
that bothers me.
I've got to go.
I'm
I'm
answering
really
your
late.
question.
I've got to go.
I'm answering your
Sorry,
question.
everyone.
All
I've
right,
got to
listen.
go.